Okay, so here we are, finally doing a podcast. I've been talking about doing a podcast for a long time. I've been kind of mulling over it, and that's been part of the reason why it's taken me so long. So I decided instead of just mulling over it and trying to get it perfect, I should just pull the trigger and execute the idea. I wasn't sure if I would do the podcast by myself, if I would have guests on, if I would have a co-host. So like I said, instead of mulling over that, I decided to just get to it and just start like this, what you're seeing here. And we'll flesh it out from there. I think maybe, obviously, the podcast will evolve from here, but I figured I should just start, especially with what's going on in the world right now. Seeing how crazy the world is right now, there's a lot to say. So I just want to speak my piece and literally speak peace. And if I can double back for a second, I'm not sure. I believe I'm calling this podcast the Superhuman Podcast. It was either that or Grounded. Maybe you guys can let me know which one you like better, but I think I might go with Superhuman. Reason why is because I think that we live in a culture and in an age that we're so obsessed with the superhero theme, the superhero movies and stuff like that. We love to dream and imagine, having superpowers, when I believe that we actually already do, whether it be in the way that we can evolve ourselves at will, the way we can heal our bodies at will through our daily practices, through our diet, through our mentality, the way we can affect one another and make people feel things. I think that we all have these very superhuman abilities, and I want to talk about very conscious, intentional choices that we can make in our lives to make things better. To talk about what's going on in the world, let me just get into it. We're going to open that ugly can of worms that no one likes to talk about. We're going to talk about racism. And I know everyone's very tired, especially after everything that's been going on this week. It's a lot. I don't think I've seen an outrage like this regarding racism to this degree ever in my life. It's heavy, and the country's very divided. There's a lot of arguing. There's a lot of contradictions. There's a lot of confusion, misinformation. There's a lot of hurt. There's a lot of anger from every side. I think I could start by saying, if you don't understand why people are outraged, I believe it would be helpful for you to take a moment to just look at everything that's going on. And for once, no matter who you are, try to step outside of everything you believe, everything you think you know, and try to understand the position, the perspective, and the life of someone who is a minority in this country. What we saw was a man by the name of George Floyd be executed, murdered in broad daylight, slowly, while under the knee of a police officer. Naturally, that inspires a lot of outrage. The reason why Black people are so enraged is because, of course, as you know, there's a history of slavery in this country, and it was ugly. People went to Africa, brought them here from Africa, turned them into slaves. They enslaved them, ripped them from their families. Some wives never saw their husbands again. Some children never saw their father or mother again. Some enslaved men had to watch their girlfriends or wives be raped by slave masters, and they couldn't do anything about it. Some of the men themselves were raped by slave masters, and from there it's been a trickle effect. Not even a trickle effect. It's been a flash flood effect of racism, systematic racism in this country. It's continued, and I know that a lot of white people don't want to talk about it, or they think it's blown out of proportion. And I'm here to tell you it's not. If you look around you and you see all the outrage, you have to, for 1 second, look at this and go, okay, there's something going on. All these people aren't just outraged just to be outraged. It's not even just Black people standing up now. It's Blacks and whites and Hispanics and Asians and everything in between. It's not just Americans, it's South Americans, it's Germans, it's people all over the globe standing up for us. It's not just one religion, it's not just Christians, it's Muslims. You got witches out there, you got Anonymous stepping out, you got the Amish and the Mennonites stepping out. Everyone is speaking up in solidarity with Black people right now. And there are still people who don't understand what the big ruckuses. Some people will go as far to say, well, if it's not George Floyd, any other person that was unjustly killed unarmed by the cops, they'll say, oh, but that person did commit a crime. They committed a crime. And I'm watching this from the outside feeling crazy, thinking, since when did a person making a mistake and committing a crime constitute that they deserve to die? Since when does them committing a crime constitute that it's okay that an officer kneel on a man's neck in broad daylight on the street? Forget broad daylight. That an officer could kneel with his knee on a man's neck until he slowly suffocates and dies. I think what kills me in most of this is that seeing that there's a disagreement or there's perspectives that clash, and there's a lot of, well, actually, but, however. And the thing I really want to point out is that no matter what the reasoning is, the perspective is, and I respect everyone's perspective. I want people to have a chance to speak. But what I want to be known in this moment is that no matter what your but is, no matter what your well actually, no matter what your however, no matter what your what about is about, none of it justifies or validates how this man was murdered. None of it. Right now we have riots and protests and looting going on, to which, and let me put this on record now, I don't condone looting or violence at all. I don't believe in it. That's not my way of expression. But I'm not everybody. I'm not everybody. I don't speak for everybody, and everybody has a right to be heard. And some people are frustrated and mad. What happens is a man like George Floyd gets executed by a cop publicly. The people are outraged. And then there's select people in this world that tend to, or choose to, put more emphasis and pay more attention to the outrage and the subsequent things. And in the subsequent things and the reactions that have had, and the various multitude of reactions that we have in this event, you have some great things happening, you have some good things happening, and you have some bad things happening. You have looting, burning things, riots. So people want to focus on that. And what I don't understand, and what I really want to shine a light on, is remember, before you engage in any of these conversations, and if you're one of the people that's like, well, but, I want you to judge and ask yourself honestly, if you're but, if you're well, actually, if you're however, if any of it is more important than an innocent man being murdered in the streets. We're not, a lot of us are not, most of us, if not all of us, are not, disagreeing that that the looting is bad and that the violence is bad. That's why we're outraged. But you have to be careful paying too much attention to the subsequent things that have come out of this. You have to be careful paying too much attention to the outrage that follows without giving proper due respect to the event that kicked this all off. What kicked this all off is systematic racism and hatred that caused an unarmed innocent black man to be killed, executed in the streets by the hand of cops who we pay to serve and protect. So I understand your outrage, but what we're not going to do is allow other things, the symptoms of the injury, to distract from what the actual injury was. Listen, for the past 6 months, starting in January, I developed a really badly pinched nerve in my back, which then turned into numbness in my leg and in my hip, down to my knee, calf, foot. My whole right leg was just numb, tingly, and gross. And I'd never had a pinched nerve before in my life, and I would never wish that on anybody. So before the quarantine kicked in around, March, I think? I had already been stuck in the house for 2 months. 2 months prior to that, because I was in pain and couldn't walk. It was really bad at first. I barely could get out of bed to get something to drink, to eat. I was struggling all by myself. So in the process of that, all these things starts kicking off, but that's not the point of what I'm saying. The injury manifested symptoms in my leg, right? But where the problem was in my back. So what I didn't do is focus on the tingling in my foot or the pain in my leg. I paid a little attention to it, but what I understood the entire time is that the root source of all the other symptoms, even though they were really bad, the root source of all the symptoms was my back. I had to strengthen my backbone. I had to put emphasis and attention there and love on that area in order for the chain effect to now get rid of all the other symptoms that sucked. In response to the death of George Floyd, there's going to be a lot of things that happen that suck. There's going to be some great things. There's going to be some things where people are voicing their frustration. There's going to be people that are just completely opportunistic and riding this for their own agenda. There's a lot of ugly sides to it too. But we cannot allow that to derail why we stepped out, why we're speaking out, why we are outraged in the first place. So anyone who's engaging in the but actually conversations, I don't want to hear it. Because I guarantee you, without even hearing all your arguments, there's not one argument, there's not one rebuttal or retort that will justify George Floyd being killed the way that he was. Being killed at all. There's no justification for it. So we need to stop, and just like you would work out in the gym, you wanna build a better chest, you're not gonna go running around doing jumps and doing crunches. You're gonna do an exercise that works that muscle. So the muscle we need to work right now in exercise, we need to work on racism. We need to work on racism. We need to work on systematic racism. And the focus needs to stay there. There's gonna be bad things. Understand that there's gonna be bad reactions. There is not one uniform opinion on this planet. Not one uniform opinion on this planet. Think about it. We have billions of people, hundreds of millions of issues. I'm just guessing wildly. Times that by billions of perspectives. That math, that equation could go on pretty infinitely in terms of the result, in terms of the outcome of that math, if you follow me. So there's not one uniform opinion. You can say, yes, there is. Everyone thinks murder's wrong. No, they don't. There's no uniform opinion on murder on this planet. Oh, well, okay, well, everyone believes in a higher power. No, they don't. There's no uniform opinion on that. Well, everyone believes, in the same politics. We definitely don't. There's not one uniform opinion on this planet. So stop expecting that in an outrage, everyone's going to react the same. Use your logic. Be a superhuman being and understand that, hey, I may not agree with this outcome here, and that sucks, and we need to get to that. But first, the attention stays on where it needs to be. Don't get distracted. You see it in the war movies, they're marching and all kind of craziness are going around them. You hear the general screaming. Hold the flag, keep the flag up. The flag needs to stay up. We need to rep why we're here. Keep the flag up, keep the flag high. If someone falls with the flag, someone else picks it up, we pick it back up. All other things going on around us might be great, some of them might suck, but we need to keep the flag high. The flag high is we are fighting for justice for George Floyd. We're fighting for justice for equality. We're fighting for justice for all. We're fighting against racism. It's enough, y'all. And I'm not gonna entertain or try to justify for anyone their position on why we shouldn't be fighting. Again, I don't agree with looting and rioting and violence. But also, again, I'm not everybody. I'm not everybody else. So you have to expect a world full of people that can't agree on anything. We're not gonna have the same reactions to things. So let's stop being surprised. Let's stop being surprised. I can't believe people are doing that. They're gonna do that. But we're not gonna allow that person's crazy action or crazy reaction to derail what's right and what we're here for and why we're fighting. We can't do that. I think a lot of the problems in this world with people in general, how we deal with each other, how we talk to each other, how we relate. One of the main problems I feel is the lack of empathy to understand what another person's going through. And oftentimes, to understand what someone's going through, we have to put ourselves in their shoes. So let me use a different analogy. Instead of putting ourselves in someone's shoes, perhaps we can try on their jacket. What do I mean by that? What I mean is this. I could wear a really nice jacket, right? And from the outside, people could be looking at me, or a friend could look at me and go, yo, that jacket's dope. And I'm like, yeah, but it's really itchy and it's hot. Like, I don't feel nice in this. I kind of don't want to wear it. And then they go, but it looks nice. And I go, yeah, I know it looks nice to you. I know it looks fine, but I'm dying under this jacket. It's hot, it's itchy, I don't like it. And they're like, but you look great. And I'm like, but I'm not great right now. The jacket's hot. They're like, but it's a dope jacket. I'm like, but the jacket's hot. but they're not getting it because they're not wearing what I'm wearing. They're not experiencing what I'm experiencing. So my thought is, energetically, theoretically, you have to take that jacket off and let someone else try it on. Except in that scenario, it would work because I can physically hand someone a jacket and they can try it on. In this case, dealing with the Black experience in America, most people don't know what that feels like. They look at Black and they go, man, that looks cool. Your slang is cool. Your music is cool. Your style is cool. Your expression is cool. Your music, your movie, like, man, y'all cool. Like Paul Mooney said, the Black American male is the most copied man on this planet, bar none. And I'll take it up a step. The Black culture in America is the most copied culture on this planet, bar none. That's also not debatable. But we can't make people try on our experience. We can't hand them the jacket and say, you try it on. You see how hot and uncomfortable this thing. It looks cool. It looks great. But you don't want to wear it. Trust me, you don't want to wear it. So that's where my white brothers and sisters come in. This is where you got to choose to say, you know what? I'm going to take this jacket and I'm going to try it on. Meaning I'm going to really take a moment. For those that, and this is particularly, there's a lot of my white brothers and sisters out there who really do get it. There's a lot of y'all, and I've been seeing you guys support, and I'm touched, and I love y'all. I gotta say, and I've been thinking about this, and I'm gonna try not to get choked up. But truth be told, I'm looking at a lot of the support, and in some ways I'm surprised at the amount of support. I really am. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. I'm thinking like per usual, because oftentimes it's just Black people and white people don't really join in, other people don't really give it that much attention. This time the entire globe is standing up. And I feel so touched, man. I feel so loved. I feel so loved. Let me tell you about trying on jackets. A lot of people, and this is something, there's so much to get into when we talk about race. So this is probably gonna have to be an ongoing, long conversation for the United States of America, for the world, really. But let me tell you about the jacket that I've worn. I go to parties now or hang out with people now, and we encounter people who that, because of my complexion, both my parents are Black, but I'm light skinned. That's what we call light skin. And but because I'm lighter skinned, people want to assume that you're not that Black. And that is always low key. I go to parties and there's a white guy who might know one more lyric of a song than I know, or listen to more rap than I do, I guess. Maybe, I don't know. But there's always some reason that makes a white guy want to say, I'm more Black than you. And they're joking, I get it, but it boils my blood. Because the jacket I've worn has been this. Growing up in Cincinnati, Ohio when I was 6 years old. When we moved there, I was born in Louisville, Kentucky, but we moved to Cincinnati when I was 6. At that age, we ended up moving to a neighborhood that we didn't realize or know was going to be a very racist white neighborhood. Now, the kids were fine, but the adults had an issue with us. And that's why it's important to know that oftentimes racism is mostly taught, because kids learn it from the parents. When I was growing up, the kids were fine with me. As time went on, issues developed. There was a kid, these two kids actually, who lived down the street, a brother and sister. I played with them all the time. And one day, me, the brother and the sister, the sister was my age, the brother was a few years older. But me and the sister were really cool. This little blonde white girl, and we're like being kids. We're making mud pies in the dirt, like little 6, 7-year-old making mud pies. And I remember we're making mud pies. Mine's apple pie. What's yours? Mine's apple pie too. It's kid stuff. And she looks over at me and she goes, do you want to be my boyfriend? And I look at her and I was like, I had no clue what that meant, but I knew it sounded good to me. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll be your boyfriend. And we went back to making mud pies. That was it. Went home. Next day, I go back over there to do it again. We're gonna make some mud pies, y'all, because we're freaking kids playing with mud and sticks. As I'm walking up to the house, her brother comes up to me really quickly in between me and the girl, and he goes, hey, we can't play with you anymore. And I'm like, why? And he goes, my mommy says that you're a nigger and that we can't play with you. And at that age, you don't know what that means, You don't know what it means. But you just know in that moment, at that early age, you're taught you're not good enough, you don't fit in, you're not wanted, you're bad in some way, and you need to go away. So that was one of my first, or if not, that was my first actual run-in with racism. 6 years old, 6, 7, somewhere in there. Same neighborhood, summertime, kids are having a pool party. I'm cool with all the kids in the neighborhood. The kids are, like I said, the kids are cool. It's the adults that are a little cuckoo. And across the street, I see my friends in their yard, and this is a different family. And they had like, one of those little kiddie pools, the one you blow up and you just fill with water with the holes, and all the kids are jumping in it and they're playing and having a good time. And I see this and I get so excited. And of course, my initial back thought was like, why didn't they tell me they were having a pool party? Whatever, it's my friends. So I run across the street and I'm like, hey guys. And they're like, hey. And I'm like, starting to take off my shirt, and I go to step in the pool. And one of the moms who was sitting on a lawn chair, one of the white moms, she goes, no, you can't get in the pool. I'm like, why? Because I said so. You can't get in the pool. Okay. So I just stood there and watched other kids swim, wishing I could go swim too. And the kids being kids, they're a little knuckleheaded, and they're going to always test boundaries. So after a minute or two, I kind of waited, and I was like, all right, I'm going to get in the pool now. Again, same age, probably somewhere between like 7, 8 at this point. Still very young. And I go to get in the pool again. The mom yells at me again. No, I said no. Get out of the pool. It was because I was black. That was it. That was it. Just because I was black. You're not allowed to swim. Back then, I didn't understand. Looking back now, I know, because it was a very racist white neighborhood. Same neighborhood. My father and I were walking one day. I think we were going to the store. We were walking to the store. Cop pulls over in front of us. Boo! Like I said, I'm like 6, 7, 8 tops at the time. I was very young. And I see this cop get into an altercation with my dad. I don't understand what's going on. In front of me, he takes my dad, throws him in handcuffs, throws him in the car, peels off, leaves my young ass standing on the street by myself, confused and crying. My dad told me later, when I was older, of course, that when he got in the car and the cops drove him out, first of all, he got arrested and thrown in the car because as we're walking to the store in this sleepy little neighborhood on the east side of Cincinnati near Kellogg Avenue on the east end, sleepy little town, not town, but like, area of town. We're like walking to the store. We crossed the street. We had jaywalked, I guess. That's when I learned what jaywalking was. It was a little street. We just crossed the middle of the street. Cops saw it, pulled over, threw my dad in handcuffs and took him to jail over jaywalking, knowing that his son, me, was going to be standing there in the street lost by himself without any direction. I'm crying. I just start running as best I could with my memory, as much as I can remember in which direction we came from. And luckily I found my way home. But what cop would just leave a young man on the street and take his father, throw him in cuffs and throw him in a car and drive off all over jaywalking? And I can go, there were so many other stories like that. From just that neighborhood, from just that section of my life. I mean, I can really, and I don't want to go overboard sharing too many stories, but I mean, from those, we can go older and then dealing with when I'm in middle school and high school and I start dating a little bit, and so many instance after instance after instance after instance of just meeting girls from all over the place and parents constantly having a problem with me because I'm black, which blew my mind, because it's like, what problem can you have with me? For years, I was a YouTuber, and I would constantly have skinheads and Nazis troll my account, call me nigger, steal my videos, overdub my videos with their voice, saying things about gorillas and bananas and nigger stuff and stealing and just all kind of other, racist expressions that white people use. I mean, I could really go on for a very long time with the instances of racism that I've dealt with. I can't play Xbox without being called nigger. And anyone who games knows this very well. You can't even get on Xbox, PlayStation, anything, any of those games, and not hear that as the go-to slur for most white kids. From most white kids. It's crazy. You have gamers like PewDiePie on the YouTube platform, their biggest creator ever, if I'm not mistaken, who got caught up by saying the N-word. He said, well, let me just say it. He said nigger on his live stream playing games. He also made an anti-Semitic remark as well. Slurs for two different types of people, racial slurs. And what happens? YouTube rewards him with a contract. I knew he just got a new contract. He's gonna make millions. It literally pays to be racist. So when I talk about my experience in the jacket that I wear, how many of my white brothers and sisters out there can say you feel uncomfortable going to a bar because it's mostly white people and you usually have some sort of discriminatory encounter? How many of my white brothers can say that when you walk behind a woman in line at the store, you noticeably see her grab her purse and zip it up, or lock her doors when you're crossing the street? Now, there's some of you out there who may have dealt with this that are white. Totally. But that is a moment that someone would probably be like, well, but I deal with that too. Cool. But you can't be tone deaf and not understand that black people have dealt with this on a massive scale. You can't be tone deaf and ignorant of the fact that slavery was real. You can't be tone deaf and look at that and think that it doesn't have an effect on today, no matter how long ago it was. You can't look at the history of this country and think that black people don't feel a certain type of way towards that. We're talking about a country whose very anthem itself is racist. Oh, say, can you see? Well, if you go in and look at the rest of the lyrics, the part that we no longer sing, it was literally a racist theme song about killing slaves. But then they want to be mad that we don't kneel to that. I found it very ironic that this whole thing has blown up over a cop kneeling on a black man's neck. But they had such a problem with us peacefully protesting, just taking a knee during the national anthem at a stadium. You try to make it about the soldiers and the veterans. It's not about them. It's not about them. Just because they fought for this country doesn't mean that we don't have a right to protest. Nothing in that protest was ever about being anti-veteran or anti-US. It's about anti-police brutality. It was literally, it's funny, it's highly ironic that him taking a knee, that Colin Kaepernick taking a knee was literally about police brutality. That's what he was protesting. And then someone died taking the same physical action, kneeling on a black man's neck. And the country has the nerve to say, why is everyone so pissed off? So try your best, my white brothers and sisters, my non-black brothers and sisters, to try on our jackets a little bit. Try on what we've been wearing. How? Just objectively, use your superhuman power to like really drop your guard and see people. You can literally see X-ray through people and imagine their experience. Imagine their experience. Just like we can be handed down genetics, the way our skin looks, the way our teeth look, the way our eyes look, the way our hair, curls, how our hands are shaped, the way our body composition, allergies, health complications, diseases, all these things can be handed down genetically. Guess what else can be handed down genetically? And this is scientific fact. Trauma. Trauma can literally be handed down genetically. If your parents or your grandparents or great-grandparents dealt with any certain environmental factors, those kind of things, I'm getting into epigenetics, but now that can turn on or turn off certain genes in your body. That's why certain people from like hot climates who run all the time might come to America and whoop ass in that race because their body is used to performing under much more stress, and they come here and it's a lot easier. So try to understand, even what I'm trying to explain, even on a scientific level, that black people feel things and experience things. And the trauma that we feel, the hurt, it's real. So it takes everyone to try on some empathy, try on some understanding, try on some patience, try on some objectivity. Understand what it's like to walk in, or at least try to understand what it's like to walk in a room and you feel eyes on you because you might be the only black person in the place and you feel uncomfortable now. We're not making these things up. We're not making these things up. Look at the news. Why do white people call the cops on black people just doing everyday things? Really think about it. Stop imagining or thinking, oh, people are just overreacting. How many times do you need to see this happen for you to think people are overreacting? Or is it that this country has a horrible, terrible, ugly, disgusting history of systematic racism? I would like to think the latter. Like, this country has a terrible history of systematic racism. Like, we get handed down trauma in a way, and I know my black brothers and sisters will agree with this. I can hear certain music and it touches a vibe in me that no one else is gonna feel. It's something that black folk really feel. Like, if I hear Nina Simone's Strange Fruit, it immediately can make me almost want to cry. And I don't even know why, other than it's just, I literally feel my ancestors. I feel what happened to them. Some of us don't even know where we come from because our history has been erased. We don't know what parts of Africa we come from. We can get a DNA test and it's all general. We don't really know. We can't trace our stuff because a lot of our ancestors were ripped apart. Homes were broken. Men were basically, broken. So they would be subservient to slave masters. And those kind of things have a crazy mentality. There's angst, there's resentment. You think you can't deal with a regular relationship in your life and feel some of those things? You think it's not gonna apply systematically over the course of tens, if not hundreds of years? That a group of people might start to feel resentful? And people will try to say, yo, black people are racist too. Black people, no. Now, let's get something out of the way. I will say this. Anyone can be racist. Anyone can be racist. But oftentimes, my white brothers and sisters, what you might be sensing from black people is a little resentment, is a little discomfort, distrust, a lot of distrust. So try to understand where things are going. Let me get back to the main point. George Floyd. Let me ask you a question. For those that still have a but actually, a well, or but this, but that. Let's remove everything else. Let's remove the rioting, the looting. When you look at that picture of him with a cop's knee on his neck, as a human being, does that look right to you? Does that look right to you? Some people were like, yeah, he forged a check. He faked $20 bill, which I haven't even really heard the verdict on that, but it won't even matter. Whatever crime they say that he allegedly did, is that worth someone kneeling on his neck in broad daylight for 7, 8, 9 minutes until he dies? Does that look right to you? Just use your human, I want you have a superpower, and that superpower that we all have is to feel. I think society has forgotten how to feel things. Feel. Get out of your head. Feel. Feel. Think about it. Feel. What do you feel? Learn how to feel, everybody. And this ain't just for my white brothers and sisters and non-black brothers and sisters. This is for everybody. Learn to start feeling again. This is part of why I wanted to name this Superhuman, is because I look at it and we have a superhuman ability. If you're part of the conscious community and you talk about vibrations or frequency, people go, vibrations, frequency, weirdo, tree hugger, meditation, woo. But then your whole life you've been saying, man, they gave me a bad vibe. Vibe? What's vibe short for? Oh yeah, vibration. You ever walk into a place and you're like, I got a strange feeling. Something feels off. You feel it. That's a frequency. That's a vibration. Our very cells, they vibrate. Every little cell in our body, they vibrate and they create a heat, and it creates this weird magnetic tension where we don't just break apart and turn into dust. It's we literally are vibrating on a microscopic scale. On a cellular, we're vibrating. Some of us vibrate slower. Some of us vibrate really high and really fast. So feel more. Look at your brothers and sisters. Look at your brothers and sisters and try to understand what they're going through. Try to feel it. Drop your defenses. Stop the but actuallys. There's not a but, a counterpoint, a rebuttal that is going to justify that man's death. It's just not going to happen. So our responsibility is to keep our focus on why we're here. Why we're here is to fight against injustice and racial inequality, to fight against police brutality, and get justice for George Floyd. Get justice for Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Kentucky, my birth city, who was asleep in her bed with her boyfriend. Imagine you just laying with the person you in love with, minding your goddamn business. Cops break into their home because they had a warrant. They broke into the wrong home. I saw another report that said that they even fired shots from outside the home into the home with the blinds closed. Killed this woman in her bed. Her boyfriend, unaware that it was cops because they never announced themselves or said anything, he grabs his legal firearm and starts defending her and just shooting back at these strangers in the night. Turns out to be cops. Not only was that man's girlfriend murdered in front of him, they then arrested him and charged him with attempted murder for shooting back at the cops because he didn't, A, know they were cops because they never announced themselves, and B, what else would you do? If I was in a relationship and I'm in bed and me and my girl is sleeping and I hear someone break in and they're shooting and I have a legal firearm, I'm shooting back too. How insulting that he had to watch his girlfriend die in front of her. And I heard the 911 call and it's brutal. How insulting that he had to watch his girlfriend die and the cops arrest him and charge him with attempted murder. No apology, no restitution, just you shot at us, you're going to jail. It's like, where's the feeling? People have forgotten to feel. You've forgotten how to feel. What is going on with everybody? Initially, my first podcast, I was going to talk about judgment. I'm going to talk about judgment. I'm sorry, y'all. I think I feel so much with everything going on that it's just, there's moments it hits me and I'm holding it back because it's a lot. And this is my first podcast, so my train of thought might run all over the place. I think in the future I'm gonna write down notes so that I can make sure I make my points. But this has affected everybody. Acting as if racism is not a thing, is not acceptable. Pretending that just because, or thinking that just because you're not racist, it doesn't affect you. Let me talk about that too. I understand it seems like there's a lot of anti-white people rhetoric right now, right? Let me make a parallel for those of you who may feel attacked. I can tell you right now that at least the black people I know and most black people I know, no one's out to start a race war. I've seen that quite a bit in the news. No, we're not. Black people are 12, maybe 13% of this country's population. We wouldn't be trying to start a race war. We are literally like vastly outnumbered. We're not trying to start a race war. We're just trying to live. So I encourage everyone, when you see things that just don't make sense, call it out, point it out. Like, yo, that doesn't make sense. Don't say that. Don't say race war. I see that and I'm like, I hate seeing people take things, make something up and then spread it as fact. I've never, with any of my black friends, that has never been even close to part of a discussion or part of a topic that's been on the table, ever. So don't say that. But to my white brothers and sisters who feel attacked, listen, let me make this comparison. I, as a man, have to make sure that I'm doing my part because we've had a lot of progression in women's rights and women's equality and just a lot of growth as a nation, as a country, as the world. We've had a lot of growth recently in making sure that we are paying attention to women's issues, respecting women, treating women differently, treating women better, respecting the divine feminine. Me as a man, I realize it is on me to make it my choice and my job to observe myself and watch how I interact with women now. Not because I don't want to get in trouble, but because women started standing up and complaining and saying like, yo, men are acting up and we're sick of it. We're sick of y'all like controlling everything and this and that and not giving us a voice. Hell, it wasn't even that long ago that women still couldn't vote. So in current day, I've taken it upon myself to try and check my male friends. If I hear BS conversations, or if I hear a guy maybe doing something that I think is subpar in terms of how you treat a woman, I've taken it upon myself to speak up more. It ain't always comfortable. It ain't always fun being the goody two shoes who's like, come on, y'all, that's not cool to talk about a woman like that. We can treat women better. It's not always comfortable, but it's necessary. That is my job. That is something I've taken upon myself. And most importantly, not to sit up here like I've got it all figured out. That goes for me too, in terms of like, I have to check myself sometimes if I'm doing something that I feel like, that's probably not, I probably need to stop doing that. My point being, my white brothers and sisters, don't feel attacked. Understand that the outrage that black people feel is very justified. Once again, using the man analogy, you hear women all the time say, men are trash, men are trash, men are trash, men are trash. Now, me as a man, I don't like that sentiment, but I'm also smart enough to know that just doesn't apply to me, because I know I'm not a trash human being. I know that I'm not a trash male. So instead of taking it personally and being like, stop saying that, you're hurting my feelings. No, I get what they're saying. And I'm smart enough to know that women are standing up and complaining because, men, we're annoying. We're intrusive. We don't see ourselves. We can do better. We can raise the bar. And then here comes the but actually. But not all women act. Doesn't matter what anyone else does, how they react to how we're acting. The point is, we need to just worry about us and fix us. So again, to my white brothers and sisters, if you feel attacked, understand we're not attacking you. But also understand, if you know you're not a racist white person, then let it go and understand that it doesn't apply to you. And then do some work to talk to those around you who might be. Because y'all in the rooms that we can't get into, you guys are part of conversations that may not happen in front of us. You hear the jokes, you hear the racism. Some of y'all turn a blind ear or a blind eye. Start speaking up if you want to help. Start correcting that. Most importantly, people with kids, man, talk to your kids about racism. You're a parent, I ain't gonna tell anyone how to raise your kids, but talk to your kids about racism. And then, and do it, as you see fit, but make sure it gets done. I know it's, again, like I said, sometimes as a man, it's uncomfortable being the guy who speaks up. It might be uncomfortable being the white friend who speaks up. Like y'all, stop, but something needs to be said. Stand up. Stand up for others. I am going to do this podcast, I don't know how often, probably as often as I need to. I know I'm going to go back and watch this and probably see a bunch of things that I've missed that I wish I said. And train of thoughts that went all over the place, but this is just the start. I just wanted to just kick this off and get it done. So there's that. But the world is it's intense right now. Love on everybody around you. Just do, man. The racism's real. We can't enjoy, like I spoke about not being able to enjoy Xbox without hearing the N-word. We can't enjoy TikTok without seeing the N-word. Can't go to the store and shop without being profiled. Can't drive without getting pulled over. Can't jog without getting shot by a shotgun. Can't sleep in our beds without getting killed in our sleep. I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, that had terrible race relations. And there was a case, and I should have looked up this kid's name first, but there was a case in Cincinnati when I was very young of a young unarmed black kid who got shot, and not only shot and killed, but he got shot in the back. He got shot in the back. That should have never happened. But I guess I'm gonna go ahead and end this podcast. I may not have ended that the way I hoped to. I wanted to have a much more uniform, structured way to end this, but I guess ultimately what I'm saying is make sure that we keep our eyes on the main point of all of this, which is justice for Floyd. Again, look at it. Does that look right to you? Look at the image of him with a cop's knee on his neck. The cop with a smug, arrogant look on his face. Your butt actuallys mean shit to me. Your butt actuallys mean shit to all of us. Does that look right to you? Feel. Does that look right to you? He stole something, but does it look right to you? Is that okay? It's not. I don't care if he wrote 50 bad checks. That's not okay. I would be equally outraged about that. If it was a white guy, Mexican, Hispanic, Asian, that's not okay. You don't do that to somebody. I love y'all. Thanks for listening to my first podcast. If you made it this far, I didn't expect to actually talk this long. And next time I will make notes. I'm gonna end it here. Thanks for listening to the Superhuman Podcast with Iman. I love you guys. Catch you next time.